At my graduation party, my pregnant sister accused me of flirting with her husband. He exposed her affair and revealed the baby wasn't his, leading to a fight that shattered our relationship. So, last Saturday was a big deal for me. I graduated from nursing school. My parents were super proud since I'm the first in the family to snag a degree, so they decided to throw this huge party at their place. Everyone showed up. Extended family, my college buddies, neighbors, you name it. It was a chance to celebrate not just my achievement, but also to thank everyone who had my back all these years. My sister Emily, who's 24 and very pregnant, came too. She's married to Dennis, and they've been together for 3 years. I thought the party would be smooth sailing because Emily seemed genuinely happy for me when I announced it, even offering to help with the decorations. But here's the thing about Emily, she's always been one to steal the spotlight. Like, she announced her engagement at our cousin's wedding and blurted out her pregnancy news at our grandma's 80th bash. So yeah, drama kind of follows her around. Anyway, the party was going great. People congratulated me left and right, chatted about my nursing gigs, and we all chowed down on this amazing barbecue my dad had been grilling since dawn, plus this fancy cake mom got from town. I was hanging out with my college friends by the patio, and suddenly, Emily got up from where she was sitting with Dennis. She had that look on her face, the one that usually means trouble's brewing. She walked right up to me, all dramatic, and announced to everyone that I'd been flirting with Dennis the whole evening. She accused me of trying to seduce him while she was pregnant and feeling vulnerable. The whole place went dead silent. I tried to calm her down, saying she was imagining things, and I'd barely exchanged 2 words with Dennis. But Emily wasn't having it. She just got louder and started calling me a horrible sister who was jealous of her happiness and out to wreck her marriage. Meanwhile, Dennis just stood there looking awkward as hell. My parents rushed over, clearly worried, as Emily yelled that she couldn't trust her own family. Then out of nowhere, Dennis finally spoke up. Turns out Emily had been cheating on him, and he wasn't even sure if the baby was his. The whole party gasped. Emily went pale. Dennis claimed he'd found texts from some guy named Randall and said the timing lined up a little too well with her pregnancy. Emily freaked out, accusing Dennis of lying to shift the focus, but Dennis wasn't backing down. He pulled out his phone and read some of the texts out loud. It was obvious she'd been sneaking around. Hearing all this, I lost it. I'd had enough of Emily's antics spoiling my day, so I pushed her away. We got into a full-on brawl, hair-pulling, slapping, the whole 9 yards. Our family had to step in to break us apart. Dennis, meanwhile, was like, "I'm out of here," and he left Emily there, saying he'd had enough. Emily then tried to make our parents take sides, but the vibe was already shot. With everyone feeling awkward, most guests made a quick exit after that showdown. My parents were crushed that my big day had spiraled into chaos, and they spent the rest of the night trying to piece together how things had gotten so out of control. Emily eventually got a friend to pick her up since Dennis took off with their car, and she was still crying about how she was being ganged up on. What a mess, right? I've always been a bit envious of her seemingly perfect life. After an exhausting graduation party that should have been a blast, there I was helping my parents clean up decorations and leftover food, picking up the pieces of what ended up being a disaster, thanks to Ida flipping out the way she did. People are bombarding me with questions about what exactly went down and why things got so heated so quickly. So here's some backstory about my rocky relationship with my sister Emily and her chronic need for attention, which has always been a huge problem. Emily and I were never that close because she's one of those people who always has to be in the spotlight, and it's caused chaos at family gatherings for as long as I can remember. When we were kids, she'd pull stunts like pretending to be sick on my birthdays, so our parents would fuss over her instead of celebrating with me. Or she'd cry wolf about being bullied whenever I had friends over, just to steal the show and make everyone focus on her sob story. As we grew up, Emily got craftier with her attention-seeking antics. She even stole the limelight at our cousin Megan's wedding, standing up during the speeches to announce her engagement by flashing her ring and claiming Dennis popped the question that morning. That move completely overshadowed Megan's big day and stirred drama in the family for ages. Fast forward to last year, at Grandma's 80th birthday bash, Emily waited until we were all seated and eating to drop the bomb that she was pregnant. She made this big announcement while clinking her glass, then spent the evening talking about pregnancy symptoms, overshadowing the whole birthday vibe. Then there's Dennis, her fiancé, a pretty quiet guy with zero interest in family drama. He's a mechanic who keeps to himself, which is why everyone was floored when he exposed Emily's affair at the party. I was furious about Emily's bogus, flirty accusations at my graduation, not just because they were lies, but because this party was my moment to shine after busting my butt for years in nursing school. Balancing work and studies was rough, especially since I never thought I'd manage college-level stuff. But I was dead set on becoming a nurse for a stable career to help people and support myself. Graduating and passing the licensing exam was a huge deal for me. It proved I could do more than anyone ever expected. My parents were over the moon since no one in our immediate family had ever graduated college, and they went all out planning a party to celebrate this milestone with everyone who had my back during school. Emily knew how much this meant to me and to our parents, and she totally knew her accusations about me flirting with Dennis were absolute nonsense, especially since I spent the night catching up with college friends and family. A few days later, I had a long heart-to-heart with my parents about Emily's behavior at my party and the years of attention-seeking nonsense leading up to this mess. I told them they partially caused this by always pushing me to pretend we're a picture-perfect family rather than dealing head-on with Emily's antics. Their whole mantra of keeping family drama private and showing a united front meant I was always told to brush off Emily's hurtful behavior for the sake of keeping the peace. Like when Emily announced her engagement at Megan's wedding, they said I was being petty for feeling upset and that I should just be happy for her. And when Emily dropped her pregnancy news at Grandma's 80th, my concerns were brushed off as jealousy instead of addressing how disrespectful it was. I told my parents how ignoring Emily's behavior all these years let her think she could get away with anything, as long as she masked it as sharing happiness or being emotional. Dad tried to defend their approach, saying they treated us equally and couldn't control how we acted as adults. But I pointed out that ignoring bad behavior isn't equal treatment, and that their lack of boundaries contributed to the blow-up at my party. Emily's false accusations didn't just hurt me. They embarrassed our whole family in front of friends and relatives who came to celebrate my achievements, but left witnessing a ridiculous drama. Thanks to her antics, some people might think twice about coming to future family events, and it's all just a big mess now. So, we were having this family chat about how things have been going because of my sister Emily's behavior. My mom got really emotional and started crying, saying she never got how much it had been affecting me. She thought I was just competing with Emily instead of being genuinely hurt by her actions. She admitted my parents were more focused on keeping the peace and looking like a united family, which kinda allowed Emily to keep acting out. I told my folks their apologies were nice and all, but I needed to see some real changes in how they dealt with Emily from now on. I also mentioned I wouldn't show up for any family gatherings if Emily was there unless she publicly apologized for the drama at my graduation party. My dad was confused about what I meant by a public apology, so I explained Emily needed to tell everyone at the party that her accusations against me were bogus, and she was sorry for the unnecessary drama. My parents talked it over privately for about an hour while I chilled in the living room. When they came back, they said they decided to ban Emily from family events until she did the public apology. They planned to call Emily that night to explain and also reach out to the family to say they didn't approve of Emily's antics. Plus, my mom wanted to apologize to some of my college friends, who were at the party because she felt bad their first impression of us was so negative. She asked me for their contact info to explain Emily's behavior didn't reflect our family's values. When my parents called Emily while I was at work, it didn't go great. Emily started crying, saying everyone was against her during a rough time since she was 8 months pregnant with marriage issues. She argued that instead of being punished, she needed support and claimed her behavior was due to pregnancy hormones and marriage stress. But my parents told her that her meltdown at the party was unacceptable and that she needed to own up to her false accusations and the drama she caused. They said the ban would stay until she apologized publicly, hoping she'd think things over and mend the relationship. Before they could finish, Emily hung up and hasn't replied since, which is typical when things don't go her way. A few days later, Dennis, her partner, followed through with a paternity test to see if the baby was his. The test came back showing he wasn't the father, which was awkward. Emily called our parents crying, saying Dennis kicked her out and was filing for divorce because he couldn't trust her after finding out about the affair. She's 38 weeks pregnant and could give birth any day, But she has nowhere to stay since she doesn't have enough savings for a place, and most friends have backed off because of the drama. She asked if she could stay with my parents for a bit. They were torn because they had just banned Emily, but didn't want their pregnant daughter to be homeless. They asked my opinion, and I said that even though I was mad about the graduation party, an innocent baby shouldn't suffer because of Emily's mistakes. I told them to let her stay temporarily, but Emily still needed to apologize. I added that if Emily tried to manipulate them with her situation, I'd rethink my advice. In the end, my parents agreed to let her move in for now, focusing on the baby's safety. So here's what went down. Nobody was letting Emily off the hook for what happened at the graduation party, but they did call her up and tell her she could crash in her old room until 6 weeks after the baby came. This way, she'd have some time to bounce back and sort out her next steps. Emily just moved back with only 4 suitcases because Dennis kicked her out on short notice. My mom says Emily's been crying nonstop, feeling like her world's crumbling and everyone's ditched her. Dennis agreed to cover Emily's medical bills for the pregnancy and delivery, but he drew the line at supporting the baby because he's not the dad. He told Emily to get all her stuff out within 2 weeks and said he's changing the locks and filing for divorce pronto. Emily's been trying to get in touch with the baby's real dad, Randall, who was the guy from those texts Dennis saw during my graduation party. But Randall's ghosting her ever since he heard about the baby. Turns out he's married with kids and made it clear he wasn't leaving his wife or stepping up for anything that happened between him and Emily. My parents are feeling the heat having Emily back because she needs a ton of emotional support. Emily's leaning on them for everything, from finding a lawyer to choosing a pediatrician and looking into government aid. I've been keeping my distance and not visiting the parents' place to avoid adding tension. I call my mom every few days, though, to see how they're doing and suggest ways Emily can eventually get on her feet. Fast forward a year. Emily had a healthy baby girl named Grace 3 weeks after moving back in, and the birth went smoothly. Dennis showed up at the hospital to be there during the deal, Ivory, but he made it known that's where his involvement ended. Their divorce wrapped up about 8 months ago, and Dennis kept the house while Emily got a small settlement to cover legal fees and start a college fund for Grace. Emily didn't do the public apology my parents wanted before she could join family gatherings again. Instead, she's been living at home with them, not really striking out on her own. My folks filed for custody of Grace because Emily's been dealing with depression and isn't fully up to handling newborn life on her own. They've basically become Grace's main caregivers, while Emily works part-time at a retail job. Randall is still dodging the paternity thing, refusing to help out financially because he doesn't want his wife finding out and he's worried about how child support payments would mess with his budget. Emily and I haven't really mended fences since that whole mess because she never apologized for her outburst at my party. The few times we've talked when I visited my parents, it's been super surface level and awkward. Emily seems to think everyone blew the party scene out of proportion and sees herself as the victim who lost her marriage and ended up strapped for cash. My parents are feeling the strain of supporting Emily and Grace, both financially and emotionally. They've gotten more worn out over the past year trying to raise a kid in their late 50s. They love Grace and are committed to giving her a stable home, but they've privately confided in me about their anxieties over their own health and being able to manage everything. I pitch in now and then by babysitting and helping with expenses, but I'm keeping my distance from Emily. Grace is just a kid who deserves all the love, but I'm not about to act like what Emily did was no big deal just because time's passed.